Viewers, welcome back to Rise and Shine. At this time, viewers, we're chatting with Mr. Willis Burris, an author. He's on our program this morning to chat with us on his book, The Man I Love and Me. Good morning and welcome to you, Mr. Burris.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you with us.
Yes, I'm home. You know, I've been away for 28 years. And I'm visiting.
That's a long time.
Yes, I'm visiting to promote this book. It's dedicated to my father. You know, a lot of times fathers don't get the credit for what they have done. I mean, it takes two. I have a wonderful mother and a wonderful father. But when my dad passed away, I was living in Israel at the time, and I had to run back home. And I decided at that time that I wanted to write this tribute to him.
Well, what is it about your father that has been so outstanding, so memorable for you as a grown man to want to recognize him at this point in time?
Well, the spiritual basis that he gave to us, he was a man of great moral rectitude. Mm-hmm. He was a man of justice. He was a man of truth. He had very high spiritual standards, and I try to emulate him. I don't know if I ever get as close to where he got, but he's like a role model for me. And I felt that his story needed to be written, needed to be told. And it's been written and it's been told. This book is all over the world, because when I worked in Israel, there were people from 60 different countries around the world. Mm-hmm. There were 800 people there working at the Baha'i World Center. And I have sent the announcement to that 5,000 plus people as soon as the book was published. So the book is being published, being purchased all over Europe, Australia, Canada, United States, the Caribbean. So the story has now been told to the whole world. I had to come home, as my father always said, charity begins at home and ends abroad. So I had to come home, do the launching in Tobago. I'm really doing media publicity in Tobago, mm-hmm. and negotiating with the bookstores. I don't want to go with the name yet, but one of the bookstores in Scarborough would be carrying the book, mm-hmm. and we're still negotiating price, you know, their share for, you know, their expenses, their overhead, and their promotion of the book, and my expenses for production and whatever profit margin there is. But the book will be available at one of the Scarborough bookstores very soon. Yes.
Okay. Willis, I look at the cover of the book, and you know, it's breathtaking. From up Churchill Road to across Bamboo Hill, down the bay. You know, you have a panoramic view, you know, of the whole village, you know, so that, you know, just looking at this alone, people would want to come actually and see it, right? But let me ask you, from boys growing up in Palatuvia, you know, they used to use the term behind God back, you know, you the behind God back, and you know, so what it was for you, or what it's like for you to be so far away in Israel and reflect on home, Palatuvia, Tobago, Palatuvia. What is the correlation? Is there any correlation, or were you in amazement, you know, when you go out there, you remember things back home that are relevant and help you out there as a man, or to make you a better man?
Yes. Well, it's all about the education that I've had. And if you browse the book, or if you purchase the book, and you look at the acknowledgments, I have acknowledged from my parents, my teachers, whether they were spiritual teachers or academic teachers like Mr. Noel Sosa, my geography and cadet teacher at Bishop's. So he was one of the primary mentors for me. Then when I went to banking, I had Jared Phillip as a finance mentor. Then I went to Trinidad as a business owner, working with my brother. So throughout the process, it was all about education. And there's a very wonderful quote in the Baha'i writings about education. It says that, regard man as a gem, or a mine rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and to enable humanity to benefit therefrom. And this ties in with Confucius. And when I entered education a few years ago because I'm a finance expert. I've done it all over, but I wanted to give back to young children in middle school age, because that was the happiest time for me when I was in school. When I was 11, 12, left the village, came to Bishop's and started getting into science and biology. My chemistry teacher was Miss George. She was one of my favorite teachers also, Bernadette George. This is the age at which the intellect begins to open. So when I was finished with all my financial exploits in accounting, in investment management, handling millions of dollars in Israel, when I came back to America, I wanted to teach for a while, so I started teaching these young kids. And it was amazing. It was giving back. I had never done an education course in my 2 degrees, my bachelor's in accounting and my master's in international economics. And when I entered the education field, in the first year, I was named Rookie Teacher of the Year for the whole county.
You're from Tobago, yes, so just get out there. We want to be able to put
Palatuvia, Tobago.
Palatuvia, Tobago. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when I wrote my essay, I had to write 2 essays. One was my philosophy on education, and the other one was, my experience as a teacher. And I quoted that quote that I just put in there. And when the vice principal of my school read it, he said, "You would be one of the nominees." He said, "You would be one of the nominees." A couple weeks after, the school board voted me as the middle school teacher of the year. It's all over the Orlando Times. You just Google Willis Burris rookie or rookie teacher. You'll see lots of articles all over the metro Orlando area. So it's all about education. It's the 2 key things that I feel that have made me who I am and would make anyone who they are. And let us not look at ourselves, our present circumstances. I believe in a vision. Mm-hmm. I believe in becoming better every day. And therefore I wrote recently, just a month ago, I wrote something called Vision 2050. And you can find Vision 2050 on my personal website. It's called willisburris.org. willisburris.org, Vision 2050. And in that vision, I've called on the people of the world, particularly the young people, to develop a personal vision of where they want to be in the next 35 years. By then, I'll be about 90 years because I'm 54 now. I'm planning to live to at least 150 if I decide to extend or shorten. But I am going to be about 90 when that vision is complete, and I want to inspire the young people to get ready for Vision 2050.
Dr. Burris James is usually on a program on a Wednesday, claiming family. Now Eddie is on the program today, Wednesday, claiming family, and I have to say, he's not incorrect. They are cousins, I understand.
Very close.
Very
My
close.
grandmother is an Edwards, and he's an Edwards. My dad and his dad are first cousins.
Now, Eddie is so proud this morning. Eddie's sitting here beaming. He can't even speak, viewers. Just look at him. He cannot, let's go to the white shot. He cannot even speak because he's proud of his cousin this morning. Eddie, I'll give you a break. Okay. Let me ask Mr. Burris, because you're not Dr. Burris.
Dr. Burris, Ellis is my older brother.
Ellis is your older brother. Yeah. I tell you, this just gets more and more interesting, viewers.
Palatuvia,
yes.
From Palatuvia.
He just
Dr. James will claim from Shabelle, I claim
and you claiming family from Palatuvia.
From Palatuvia.
I don't have anybody in Delaford, but I'll leave it there.
Well, you remember what the Calypsonian Nelson said? All are we are one family. And that's the essence of humanity, I can't help reading this quote from the Bible, which is one of the quotes that has helped to define my reality, or I try to evolve into that reality, where Jesus in the book of Matthew says, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thou lovest thyself."
Mr. Burris, I can listen to you read. I feel like we need some extra time here just to have you read some more. Let me ask you, how many siblings did you grow with in Tobago, at Palatuvia, Tobago? I'll just put it in, okay?
We were 10. My eldest brother, who I worked with in Trinidad, he was a visionary also, not an academic. And I want to let the people of Tobago and the world know that success is not only in the academic field. And let's get away from that aristocratic thinking that you must have a PhD or a master's or a bachelor's in something to be great. Some of the greatest people in the world have never even gone to high school. Some of the richest men in the world who are running things now, they have dropped out of college. So what I wanted to say, two things that have made me and will continue to make me. The first is faith. Faith in God. But it's not an empty faith like, oh, God is going to help me. What is really faith? In the Baha'i faith, it tells us that faith is conscious knowledge and the practice of good deeds. What is that knowledge? It's the knowledge of God. The source of all learning is the knowledge of God. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and its name, and all things will be added unto you. So when you have that faith in God, it's like you've been plugged into electric power. You have a unique capacity. If you're a red bulb and the electricity comes in, you're going to shine red. If you're blue, you're going to shine blue. If you're yellow, you're going to shine yellow. God has put such a unique capacity in each of us. We just have to plug him and let his electricity run through us. And we can accomplish anything that we want to accomplish. Hopefully, we don't set our minds on negative things or vices. The world is a simple world. You either choose the path of virtue or you choose the path of vice. And when you choose the path of vice, that is what is happening. Greed. This guy wants to get something that he didn't work for. Okay, you want to covet somebody else's property or their spouse or whatever. Those are the vices of the world. If we develop the virtues of the world, we will have that peace that God has promised. And it is coming, I know without a doubt, because of the power of my faith, which is faith in God. It's not Willis has some faith. I believe in the power of God. And so long as every individual plugs into that same power, we will accomplish every good thing that is destined for humanity.
What is it about growing up with 9 siblings and yourself? What was it about growing up that stood out for you in relation to your father? And I'll tell you here, it's not very often that we have a whole segment. We've done interviews on a whole segment on an interview with a man who wants to recognize his father. We usually hear, I want to recognize my mom, my mommy did this, or my grandmother. But you have taken the time to be here in Tobago to recognize your father. What were those words that your father would have left with you, oh my Lord, that you think made that change, or was that deciding, those deciding words, those defining words in your life?
All right, I'll quote one of his favorite, if not his favorite quote. He says that the happiness and greatness of an individual, his rank and station, has never consisted in his personal wealth, but rather in his excellent character, his high resolve, the breadth of his learning, and his ability to solve difficult problems. And I have inculcated that there is no company that I've worked in where they are not dying to get me back at this moment. From you name any of them. The bank almost died when I resigned after 15 months. The people who I served in Tobago, people like Kendrick Watson, who just took his taxi and dropped me to Palatuvia yesterday. People like Fire Chief Newland John. They want me back. I spent 15 months in the bank and my impact was like 15 years. I won second place in the slogan competition in the bank. All these stories are in the book. And got a trip to St. Lucia. I represented the bank as a calypso singer in Trinidad, singing my song Inflation some 20 years ago.
You remember the words?
At least the first paragraph.
Give us a paragraph.
All over the world, the cry is inflation. People getting old from too much corruption. They only see in money, but with little retention. They don't know where to turn. A new day has dawned, meeting them like chicks without corn, and they're balling. The economy hard, and they're balling. The economy bad, and they're sighing. The economy sad. But if you want prosperity with good security, man, you must bank NCB. Man, if you want prosperity with good security, must you bank NCB. That was the name of the bank. Now, for citizens, that was National Commercial Bank. The story of a black man like me being able to be a teller is recounted there. The Black Power Revolution. Everything. This book is, it's changing the world.
What's up the songs in this book?
No.
Did you?
That's another book with my poems and songs.
Willis, I want to, look into the contents here. Chapter 4, humor, myths, legends, and language exploration. He laughed because that's not we call him. Every time he reaches you, he really gave you a quote and left something with you. Tell us about these. I know if you sit down among the Burrises and spend an hour with them, you want to go back because you laugh until, as we say, your belly busts.
Well, this is the chapter to make you laugh until your belly busts. There's all kinds of jokes in there. And a lot of the jokes that Dad used to tell us, it was jokes from when he lived for a few years in Trinidad. So I think one of the first jokes in that book is about a guy named Lebby. Lebby was doing an illegal activity in Trinidad. And the police officers knew about it, and instead of taking him to the court, they wanted to correct him on the spot. And back in those days, they used to beat alleged felons with something called a bull pistol. So Lebby started screaming, "Don't give me the bull, don't give me the bull, don't give me the bull." So Dad always used to tell us that joke about Lebby. So one of my brothers, he thinks that one of his siblings look like Lebby, so he started nicknaming him, Lebby is a big knock-knee fella like Scott, man. And he carried that on for a couple of years. And then Dad one day just said, you know what? Lebby was not a fella like Scott. Lebby was a short, big-chested fella like you. And from then, he became Lebby. But because some of these jokes are embarrassing, I don't put the name of the sibling so that there's plausible deniability. We can enjoy the joke, but save the humiliation, because I'm not about humiliating anybody. I'm about uplifting people. That's what I've done all my life. I'm an empower of human beings.
And you are not about to sit on Rise and Shine to humiliate any one of your 9.
Yes.
Let me ask you here, Mr.
But I wanted to go one more. That was jokes. Let me give you on the language exploration. One of the statements that my father made, which was, I didn't hear it myself, but it has been recounted to me umpteen times by this villager from your side, Wilton Osmond. He said one afternoon my father was giving directives to one of the bus drivers to drop off one of my siblings. He wasn't too familiar with where I was living, in Scarborough around Cinnamon Hill, so Dad wanted to make sure that the bus driver would drop him in the correct place. So he said to the bus driver, he says, he may think he knows where he is going, but when night steps in and darkness floods the earth, he'll be lost. So you just drop him at the corner of Mr. Joe Field's tailor shop, and from there he will be able to find his way. That's the man I love. He was unschooled, but he's one of the greatest philosophers I've ever met, because he was a lover of learning. Anything he put his hand on, he would learn, he would inculcate it, and he would look for an opportunity to share it. He was like Confucius.
Sure.
Yet nothing better in life than to give unto others what one has learned for oneself. So my dad was the epitome of the Confucius philosophy.
Mr. Burris, we're running out of time here, but I wish we could sit and talk with you for a longer period.
So that's why a lot of it is here. Definitely. Plus my website. Make sure that people know that the website, willisburris.org, where they can get a ton of information, which is also more current because the book covers 40 years. The website is kind of current, especially the Vision 2050 statement.
As we're closing, let me just ask you one final question. We live in an age where fathers no longer get the recognition that they did many years ago. Our men have been losing their footing, their ground, and the level of respect that mothers have for them has been lost, and that the children have for them has also been lost. I want you to, direct this to the viewers this morning in terms of what it is about your father that, as a man, as a father, that some of the fathers you believe are missing today or lacking today.
Well, we have seen a gradual deterioration in moral or spiritual standards. It's throughout the world. And my dad had predicted that. He made a lot of statements about that. In fact, he used to say, our men are losing their masculinity. We believe, falsely that certain attributes, like going out and getting women pregnant, not marrying them, and things like that, drinking alcohol, being what I would say unproductive, egoistic, macho. A lot of men feel that is manhood, but it's not. My father showed manhood by always being there. My mom always knew where he was. He was either gone to the garden, or whenever the few times he came to Scarborough to do something, he was on his farm or doing his part-time labor or work with the government. He was always there. When he was home, he would talk to us, and on Sundays he was an Anglican. Every Sunday he was in church.
That's right. And
he sang in the choir, and he did what needed to be done as a man. He represented his family, and the final tribute, the last chapter, I wrote that a few months after he died, and it just flashed in my mind. I remembered when he would kneel to pray, he would allow us little kids to sit on his back. And that just flashed in my mind.
Profound.
A lady read it in Washington, D.C. a couple weeks ago, and she said that's the part that blew her away in this book. She enjoyed everything, but that story of him allowing us to sit on his back while he prayed just took the cake for her. Yeah, so that's the man I love. That's the man I try to emulate. The man of truth, the man of justice, the man who always encouraged open debate in the family so that we could develop our intellectual capacities without bias. So that's the man. That's why everyone needs to read about that man.
The man I love in me.
Yes.
Certainly, a man who led by example. He did it and allowed his children to follow. Thank you so much, Mr. Burris, for being with us. I certainly enjoyed this interview with you.
I enjoyed it. It was a pleasure, Ms. Rhea.
Indeed. Well, viewers, we'll take a break. Coming up next, we'll be chatting with Mr. Errol Roach, a committee representative of Castara, as we focus on From Captain to Cook, which is a heritage-related festival that's coming up later on. So stay tuned and join us just after this.